The following are the words of Lou Civello, President of the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association.
Police officers risk their lives to protect our communities and keep our streets safe. These officers are the thin blue line that stands between your family and the criminals that would do them harm. We are your neighbors, protecting your neighborhood. Hold the line. Support law enforcement. Stand with the Suffolk County PBA.
The following radio show is live, except for the announcement you're hearing right now.
Welcome back to Your Island Live with your host, Tom Schiliro, on 103.9 LI News Radio.
And once again, welcome back, moving right along. You know what we do every other week? We have the great president of Suffolk County PBA on the program. It's always good to have him on. Fills us in on all of the different nuances of street enforcement and what our men and women of our police departments do, and how we're very lucky here. I say it all the time. And as you know, folks, when Lou's on, Lou Civello's on at 12:35 hour, and then backing him right up is our great district attorney, which we do have. Ray Tandy will be coming on also and talking about his last 4 years. So we get to do a law enforcement perspective, but more importantly, a public safety perspective of what's happening here in Suffolk County with both Lou and Ray. But let's say hello. Lou Civello, how are you?
Good afternoon, Tom. Doing well. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. I mean, there's a lot going on out there. I picked up a clip that we were playing all last week, and I wanted you to hear it from a perspective. Again, also looking also some of the different situations that are happening around the country. Boston Police Department had an issue. We're going to take that up in our short time here together. And it was really if it wasn't for the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association President Larry Calderon, your counterpart. It's interesting because people are starting to learn what our PBAs do, what our FOPs do, and so on around the country, and how important it is. They bring to light the issues of the men and women. But I want to play a very short clip. Many of the listeners have heard this already, but I'm really underscoring it because we have a problem in this country with law enforcement in terms of coordination, in terms of the ability for politics to permeate law enforcement, and public safety should have no bounds as to red or blue. But let's play the clip.
And again, per the Chief of Patrol, we have all the units that per 999, Chief of Patrol said all units clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over to that location. All right, and 999, just to confirm, 39th Police in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Place in Kedzie.
Again, those are the orders we're being given.
Now, Lou, I don't know how you feel when you hear that. I'm sure you feel a lot of the same way that many of our law enforcement officers do. You had federal law enforcement, Immigration Customs Enforcement, and I don't care what you say. Law enforcement is law enforcement, whether it's the Code of Federal Regulations, which the New York State Penal Code, in this case it's Chicago. It was outside of Greenfield that had taken place, Greenfield, Illinois. They were being surrounded by some very hostile individuals, rioters, so to speak. They couldn't handle the crowd. Shots were fired in that incident. They called for help. They called for local PD to come. As you know, get the cavalry. Somebody once told me that radio that you keep on your belt, it's the greatest thing in the world, because if you press a button, 2,700 Suffolk County police officers are going to come out of that radio. And they did that. They called for help. They were on their way. The watch commander got word from the chief of patrol, well, we're not sending anybody there. But wait a minute, the dispatcher, a civilian, Lou Civello, a civilian, said, you mean we're not going to send anybody? They're being surrounded right now. That's the call. You don't want to send anybody? And the chief of patrol affirmed that. Look, what's missing here? I know why they didn't send them is because the Brandon Johnson, the mayor, a politician, obviously doesn't want to cooperate with Donald Trump. Therefore, ICE is an extension of Donald Trump, and the Chicago PD is an extension of Brandon Johnson. How do folks like yourself, let's say the people that represent the men and women in the street, how do you combat this? Lou Civello, what say you?
I tell you, listening to that clip just makes my blood boil. And one of the things that I do as a PBA president, in a conjunction with my PBA board, is that we defend police officers. So we are there when police officers are accused, many times wrongfully, of inaction, of misconduct, etc. And we take the police officer's side. It's our job to advocate. So it's on very, very rare occasions that you're ever going to hear me say that a police officer should be fired. But in this instance, in this awful, egregious, disgraceful instance where you have a police chief telling officers to stand down as other law enforcement officers are under attack, that individual does not deserve to wear a badge. Disgraceful. He has brought dishonor. That is the cardinal rule, that when your brother or sister officer is fighting for their life, when they are under attack, you go. You get there. All other things become secondary at that point. This is truly, truly a betrayal of the oath that individual took. Politics should not come into play. You should not be worried about repercussions from a mayor or from some political hack when you make a decision of what to do when your brother or sister officer is in need, is fighting for their life. And if that's what you're worried about, you don't deserve to wear that uniform. You are a disgrace. You should resign.
And there was obviously the pressure. The chief of patrol said, "Oh, I can't do that. Brandon doesn't want me to do that." But there was no connection. They didn't make the connection. Well, wait a minute. By my inaction, people could get hurt. And as it was, they were ramming cars into the police car. And they caused injuries, so much so that they had to use deadly physical force in order to stop one of the drivers. This was a serious. You know what got me too? There was a civilian involved in this, the 911 operator. She was almost in amazement. You mean the call where they're being surrounded? I don't know if you caught that. You don't want me to send anybody there. You want to pull the officers back. And then, of course, the watch commander obviously had to save his own, you-know-what, had to say, as per the chief of patrol. Did it surprise you that even a civilian 911 operator understood the gravity of the situation that was taking place?
No, Tom. It did, because I think someone in the third grade would understand the gravity of what's taking place, right? I mean, it's just what an absolute disgrace. Somebody that's worried about having a job, not worried about doing a job, to abandon federal law enforcement officers, like you said, to recklessly disregard the safety of the public there and pull back police officers because you're worried about what might happen from some political hack and what they might try to do to you afterwards. That's a case where the public is going to stand behind you. They're going to know that when there is a situation that's volatile, when federal law officers are being threatened with violence and cars are being rammed, that the police need to go. Like I said, somebody in the third grade, a child, would know that when something with violence and danger is happening, the police need to go. You don't pull the police back. It is truly, truly disgraceful that this individual chose to do that. And it really is telling of what our federal law enforcement are facing. They're being demonized in much the same way that local police were just a few years ago, where we were made out to be the enemy. We were made out to be the bad guy. Police are racist and they're out there just indiscriminately hurting people. And it was all false. And this is false too. You may have some individual cases, where police officers do wrong or federal law enforcement officers do wrong. But by and large, they are keeping us safe. And, again, that mayor needs to be held accountable. The voters should hold that individual accountable. And that, that police chief should resign. He should be ashamed every time he looks in the mirror.
I couldn't agree more. It just made my blood boil. Then I think of the success that we have here in Suffolk County and what the Suffolk County PBA has been able to do by the dialogue. Obviously, I've seen it over the years, the dialogue that the PBA would have with elected officials and sitting down and rolling up the sleeves and what's the best way. And it's always been, the objective has always been the public safety, the safety of the people in Suffolk County. Now, so it does the same thing. I fear for New York City right now. You have your counterpart in New York City. I fear for them. What may happen under a Mandami administration. And as of right now, it seems to be moving in that direction. What can they do if it gets to that point? You have the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, I mean, he's saying all the right things, but he really doesn't have much of a chance to win. But Mandami is not saying the right things. He's saying all the wrong things. He is talking about defunding and so on and making it difficult, where many people are saying in the NYPD, I'm leaving the job if this happens here. Is there anything that they can do now on the ground floor of this before it gets out of hand, before it becomes that 911 call ends up happening in New York City?
I think so. I think now is probably when you have the most influence because it's prior to the election. So now is when you need to get out. You need to hit the ground. You need to educate the voters, that the voters make an informed and educated decision. Part of the problem in New York City is that this is a three-way race. I don't think there's any reality where I could vote for Cuomo. I think the man has no regard for human life. I think this is the individual who locked our parents and grandparents in nursing homes and basically sentenced them to death. In terms of our police officers, he established a parole board that freed more cop killers than ever in my recollection. Anybody else let these people simply walk free. In terms of labor, he gave us these tiers that reduced and diminished the retirement and helped fuel this recruitment crisis for police officers because he did not treat our police officers fairly. This is an individual that established bail reform. This is an individual that brought us police reform. And in many cases, police reform didn't work out like it did here in Suffolk County, where it was we worked collaboratively to make sure that this wasn't a complete defund the police initiative. In other places like Ithaca, they were basically going to get rid of their police departments and cause untold damage. So Cuomo was a non-starter for me, and just as bad is this socialist that wants to defund the police, Mandami. How he got so far ahead is beyond me. I don't understand what the people of New York City are seeing, except maybe free bus rides, I guess. He's telling you what he's going to do. He's telling you, I want to defund the police. I am going to empower this civilian review board, which has been nothing more than a witch hunt. I think if you look at the stats, 95% of the cases where these bogus complaints are made, they side against the 95%. Tom, think about that. 95% of the complaints, they cite against the police officer. So that tells you right there that the dice is loaded. And now he's going to empower them to simply fire police officers. So can you imagine that if you weren't beaten down as a New York City police officer before with your activist DAs like Alvin Bragg and the general lack of support from the city council, now you're going to have this untrained civilian review board that are cop haters that are going to ultimately have purview of whether or not you can pay your mortgage because they're going to discipline and fire you for doing your job. So complete disaster. And it's going to devolve into chaos. And I think now is the time that you need to try to influence the voters. So if I were sitting in one of those positions, I would be working hard now to do what I could to. So if you can't beat Mandami, at the very least, you want to make it so he doesn't want to fight you. That's my view. It's always been my view here in Suffolk County. There are some battles we can't win. There are some elections you can't win. There are districts that are gerrymandered. But in those cases, you get out and you take a swing anyway. You punch them as hard as you can. You get those billboard trucks out there. You get those message out there. You talk to the media where you can actually speak the truth instead of the media that is completely controlled by one party or the other. And you get that message out there. You go door to door. You make them work. You make them spend their money. Because when you do that, Tom, and you give them a black eye, they don't want to come back and have that fight over and over again. At least you get a seat at the table.
Most of the rebel rousers, so to speak, that want to put down law enforcement here in Suffolk County, I learned about 4 or 5 years. It was during the George Floyd mess that was taking place. Many of them came out and to address the Suffolk County legislature. I forgot what bill was being debated. And they found out later on that most of them were from the city and that the Suffolk County residents wanted to support and did support our police department. It's still evident today. I don't know if you remember that incident, but I remember that the Suffolk County legislature was full of a bunch of people that existed on the far left that didn't understand anything, left or right. Then many of them were not even orbiting this planet, or basically orbiting the planet, and they're not really, standing on their own 2 feet. I mean, it was just bizarre. So you see that. I mean, geographically, we're doing pretty good. here in Suffolk County. We're doing great here in Suffolk County, I would say. And I think that's a big part of it. I just want to go up to Boston real quick. This happened on October 5th. This was according to the Boston Police, but actually the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association, President Larry Calderon, he was the one that brought this to light to the news media, is that a bunch of these street takeover people came from Rhode Island. They decided to target Boston. They decided to target Massachusetts because of the bail reform and so on. And they basically attacked police officers. This is according to the president of their union, Larry Calderon, that they were coming in to attack police officers and cause some injuries. Not to mention the fact, I'm probably underestimating, but an average police cruiser is probably costs the taxpayer about $100,000. They were able to destroy police cruisers, police cars. They were able to attack police officers. This all took place. And then in the end, they end up arresting two people, one 18 and one 19 years old. They ended up getting $500 bail, and they fist bumped each other, and they were able to get out. This is according to their PBA. This has got to be frustrating.
It's incredibly frustrating. You know, you question why you're doing this job, why you're risking your life. If they're going to just be given a slap on the wrist, basically laugh in the police officer's face and be cut loose.
Yeah.
You know, and it just shows you how reckless, these laws are, how out of touch these politicians are, and, why we need pro-police, pro-public safety that actually cares about the safety of the community and our families. And it really does matter. I think, what is it, 12% of the population votes, Tom? That needs to change. We need to be engaged, and we need to get to the polls.
Yeah, and I think that's so. That has to be underscored. And again, as I said in the beginning of our talk today, there's such a working together, because right after the commercial break, we'll have our district attorney on, and we will talk about, like a lot of times I'll reference, I just had Lou Civello on, and this is what we were talking about, and the DA will then expound upon that and so on. And street takeovers were a big problem in Suffolk County for a very short period of time, my understanding. And the partnership between the DA, the county executive, the Suffolk County Police Department, the East End departments, the Sheriff's Department was almost just written in stone. Yeah, of course we're going to get together. Of course we're going to do this. And there was headway there. Why can't, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds to answer this, why can't Chicago or elected officials and Boston elected officials, why can't they come here and learn, Lou?
They could if they wanted to. It's not a secret here. In Suffolk County, we very simply said, this is not going to be tolerated. So, we took action. Our legislature took action. They gave us the ability to seize the cars, to crush them. Our DA took action in aggressively prosecuting these people. And our police commissioner took action in deploying the resources, the task force, to get our cops out there on the street, to bring these people to justice and say, hey, you're not going to terrorize our roads. You're not going to put people's lives in danger. And that can be done in Chicago. It can be done anywhere if there were the political will to do so.
And that's important. Once again, Lou Civello, President of Suffolk County PBA. Lou, appreciate it. And we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, my friend. Thanks.
Sounds great. Thank you, Tom.